Well, it's my garage, much to my wife's chagrin. I built a special tomb in the back of my garage for all of my memorabilia.
The question was about True Tunes and if there's secrets in the vault.
Here's one I do have
Thank
at least
you, Brian.
a few issues of every magazine, and I want to find somebody to scan and digitize all of it so that we can create a digital archive of everything True Tunes did. I also have a bunch of tapes of interviews that never got transcribed and never got written. I've got an interview with Rich Mullins that I did, I think it was like a month before he died. I want time to sit and go back and find things that were never done from that era, but it's just so hard because I work so much just to keep the lights on that I don't have time to go do that stuff. But it's all in the garage. I got lots and lots of vinyl. I probably got 10,000 records, and I've got I don't know how many thousand CDs and a bunch of cassettes. So someday. So.
You have the microphone, please.
We have. There's one of our
Your
kids
children,
right there.
yes. What age?
They're 19. That's Jordan right there. He's our oldest. And then Wesley is 17. Trinity is just turned 16. They're all here. Jesse is about to turn 8, and he's in St. Louis with his grandparents. One thing I want to say, like on the music front, that's kind of cool that ties in with this year at Cornerstone, and is that we just launched. We're doing something new. Michelle's written these great songs herself, and with other writers in Nashville, but not me. And it's cool because it's accessed a different part of her creativity. And I say on the video on the Kickstarter thing, and I do believe this, she always said she was intimidated to write with me because I'm a writer, but I think she was just saving her best songs for herself. And so we're doing a Kickstarter to do an EP of her songs, and we just launched it yesterday here at the festival. We pulled the trigger on it. And in the first day, I think our goal is $5,500. In the first day, we got a little over $1,000 of that. So that's very encouraging to be able to, and kind of amazing to be able to do that. But maybe she could tell us a little bit about, kind of the EP and who you're writing with, and that kind of soon to unfold chapter of our music. You want to share about that?
Well, we are from Chicago, and we kind of avoided for a long time moving to Nashville, although lots of people told us that would be financially probably a smart move for us because of music and just John's involvement in the music industry and all of that. We kind of pushed that aside because we never wanted to make a move and leave our community for financial reasons. So we always felt really committed to the community that we were a part of, and so eventually through some visits to friends in Nashville, we started realizing that there was really a need for that kind of community that we were enjoying in Chicago. There was a need for that in Nashville, and that's why we moved there. We didn't move there for anything having to do with music. We didn't even know what John's job was going to be when we moved there. That kind of all came about really fast and amazing way. But so we immediately, when we moved to Nashville, our first order of business was to open our home and start a home group and just invite anybody in who just needed a place to feel like they were loved and comfortable. And just, my happiest moment was the first time somebody walked into our house, took off their shoes and put on their slippers and felt like they were at home. Made me really happy. So that's what really makes us tick the most, more than our music. So that's why it's been such a long time. People have been asking me if I was ever going to record anything, and it just hasn't been. Although it's been a deep desire of mine, it just hasn't been on the top of the priority list. We do have 4 kids. I've homeschooled them, and that's been a big priority. And I just never wanted to have that kind of life on the road, raising kids or any of that kind of thing. But after getting to Nashville, I feel like God sort of, after a brief period of time of me kind of realizing how many amazingly talented women there were around me, and kind of feeling like I would never fit into that because I just didn't have the drive that a lot of them did, just because of my different priorities that I had. I really was sort of starting to kind of mourn the loss of that, and really was starting to wonder if God would have me completely lay down any of that musical part of me just to focus on ministry and just being a mom and a wife, that's when the songs started coming and pouring out of me. And I hadn't really written before. I'd written one song years and years ago, but I really hadn't done much of that, and they just started coming out, and I was really intimidated by John's writing. But one night I wrote one in the middle of the night, and I recorded it into this little recorder and left the lyrics and the recording out on the desk for him to discover when he woke up the next morning. And he sent me an email later that day from work and just told me how much he liked the song and wanted to show it to some people, and it got a really good response, and that made me feel it was important to me because John is larger than life. That it was
physically, I am actually larger than life.
It was important to me to not feel like someone would listen to me because I was just John Thompson's wife. I wanted someone to really identify with my music and my songs, and I wanted it to really touch them on a personal level, not just have them listen to me because he was endorsing it or something. So it's meant a lot to me to have support of some good friends in Nashville, and I've had the opportunity I kind of got the courage up to ask some amazing people if they would be willing to co-write with me, and I've just sucked up as much as I could from them creatively, just their process in writing and their stories. And so I've come up with enough songs to do this EP now, and we're doing this Kickstarter campaign to make it happen so that we don't have to go into debt to make it happen. And I'm really excited about that. A lot of the songs were inspired by my grandma. Just stories that she told me, and just thinking about the way that she lived her life really has inspired me. And going back to the time when people would dance with each other and express their love with each other in front of other people in a really romantic and sweet way. So that inspired some of the songs. My grandma passed away just a few weeks ago, so the EP is going to be dedicated to her. Her name was Gladys Hubbard. But I guess that I'm excited to be doing it. I hope it, works out, and I hope that people enjoy the songs, and that it seems like every time I play them, somebody else will come up with a story of a different one of them that's touched them in even ways that I didn't imagine. So that's really what makes me happy, more than just the creative outlet. It's when it touches people. So
I'm excited too because I think for one thing she's just great, and the last record we did was the Spiritual Songs record, which was pretty close to being her record. I think I sang on a few songs, but I had somebody come up to me last year at Cornerstone and say they really liked the Spiritual Songs record, but they said that what they liked about the Wayside was, and I don't think I'd ever really consciously designed it this way, but they said there's usually this kind of almost schizophrenic tension between the kind of noisy, bluesy, hard style that I was into and would occasionally do live, and the more graceful, pretty, melodic, cool stuff that Michelle did, and that when you smash those things together, you get a kind of unique new thing, and I hadn't really thought about that, but it made a lot of sense. But then the Spiritual Songs record really didn't have that kind of edge to it, which is fine because it's a worship record, but I think her doing this solo project will kind of allow whatever the next Wayside project is to go back to being more in the farm kind of territory, where it's a little bit more Wilco Neil Young and a little less Emmylou Harris, chill kind of thing. So we'll see, but I think that, to go back to what she was saying at the beginning, everything about our life has been influenced or touched by this event and the people behind this event. So my concept of ministry changed after I went to the first Cornerstone festivals. The church I decided to plug in with, the Warehouse in Aurora, that was not, I didn't meet them technically at Cornerstone, but it was the Cornerstone mentality that led me to find a non-traditional inner city, mission-oriented church from the Episcopal church I had grown up in. Cornerstone is where, our relationship really was gelled. It's where our kids have grown up. It's where our music has been formed. It's where a bulk of the relationships I have been formed. So it is, it's weird. I said in one of the articles I wrote, I can't remember which one right now, but somebody came up to me last night, I was thinking it was my personal blog, that I feel like this is my hometown, like that this piece of land and these people, this is actually the town I'm from. interestingly, I lived on a farm about less than an hour from here when I was a kid, and it was a horrible, horrible time of my life. But this is actually, these are my people, this is my tribe, this is my weird, dysfunctional family, and this is where I'm from. And so the idea that this won't be, it's kind of like your hometown being wiped off the map. But I was thinking today as we went through the communion service, and I'm looking at the faces of people, everybody's still around, and it's like we're nomads, and I think we're not supposed to feel too comfortable in this world. I think that's what being a stranger in a strange land is all about. And maybe it's time for this to go away so that it forces more people to engage the rest of their life the way they engage community here. And maybe they can spend more time digging in, having people into their homes, creating intentional community wherever they're from. And maybe this has to stop in order for some people to feel that itch, arise. And maybe it'll be next summer and they'll go, I'm jonesing for it and I got to do something. And so they call 50 friends and they have a cookout and they play music and they sing at the moon and they talk about Jesus and they love each other and they build a bonfire and a little piece of cornerstone happens in Nebraska or Canada or whatever that is. But it's like a forest fire. There's these trees that'll only reproduce if the forest burns down. The pine cone won't release its seeds unless it burns. And so forest fires are the only way certain trees reproduce, and sometimes stuff has to burn down in order for something. And I went through that with True Tunes. It was really hard seeing True Tunes burn down. It was one of the hardest things I've ever been through. But I can now look back and see new things that grew as a result of that. And I would not want to go back. As much as I love hearing how it impacted people, I would not go back to those days if I could right now, because new stuff has grown in its place. Maybe someday we'll say that about Cornerstone too. Any other questions? Or
I have actually had one concerning the history of the bands that have come through. Mm-hmm. Which ones caused you, I guess, to become the typical fanboy music geek like the rest of us? And which ones did you want to get that were not able to come or just didn't come?
Gosh, that one's easy. Midnight Oil. And we got so close once with Midnight Oil. So close. They wanted to come. It was like, and that was when I was on staff, and I was pulling every bit of leverage I had whatever, and they broke up like right before it would have happened. That will haunt me because Midnight Oil is still one of my favorite bands. As far as the geekiest ones, I'd say most of them I was pretty much a geeky, dorky fan. I remember when the first day of our romantic relationship, I'm pretty sure it was the first or maybe the second day, but it was the Swirling Eddies. And now Michelle is pretty, at this point, unfamiliar with most of this music, but they're singing. They come out dressed in all those crazy costumes, and she's like, "What in the world is this?" And I played her a couple of the songs, and they had that song, "I've Got an Idea." I've got an idea. I think I love you. And I was just singing it to her, and I'm holding her hand for the first time. Like, I was just on the moon. So there was nothing cool about me at that point when it was the 77s, Vector, those bands. I got a little cooler. Like, as those people became friends, I could kind of act more responsible around them. When the Alarm played, forget about it. I was not cool. I mean, my kids were laughing their heads off.
Neither was I.
I've never seen you like that. And I was right down front. I wasn't backstage. I was out there singing every word, and that was what she should probably tell you the dorkiest, because she's the one that's had to be embarrassed to be standing with me when someone's playing. I thought the Jesus Rally last year, I felt like a little kid, with all those bands. When DeGarmo and Key played, I mean, that was huge. I mean, I can't even express how huge that was. But at some point I stopped. I think in the 90s there was a time there when I first was kind of like getting a little bit more of a profile, that I was more self-conscious about trying to be cool and represent True Tunes well or whatever. And the last 10 years or 12 years, I just don't care anymore. It's like I've had people say, it makes me happy to see you having so much fun after all these years at these shows. So I don't think about how stupid I look when I'm singing along or air drumming or air guitaring or whatever. She's like, how can you not listen to I mean, every time I listen to a song I like, I've got to act like I'm playing the music. It's
just yesterday you did that.
I'm sure I did. I don't know. Can you think of anybody else I especially geek out over? I don't know.
Like, does it have to be at Cornerstone?
Oh, yes. Let's limit it to that,
Oh,
please. You
no.
don't have to embarrass me any further.
I was with him at Wheaton College when Phil Keggy played, and we went backstage because I think he was going to interview Phil, or I can't remember if he was going to interview or if he was talking to him to set up the interview. But we walked backstage, and Phil is sitting there, and they had brought him his dinner on like silver platter with like china and all this stuff. And John was completely just like, oh, Mr. Keggy. Like, he was just, it was awesome.
Yeah,
it was great.
That was special. Yeah. And that was also because Phil summoned me. That's what happened was I was out in the crowd, and he said, can you have John Thompson come back so I can say hi to him? So being summoned by Phil Keggy was enough. And then getting there and the whole, yeah, that was pretty bad. I was pretty embarrassed. And you ever get to where you're almost out of your own body and you're so geeking out and you can't stop it, and you're watching yourself with great horror and shock at how lame you are, and yet you can't do anything about it? That's how I live.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, I have to say that when Midnight Oil came back out with Capricornia, I had the same reaction because I got the interview that night as well, and just an unforgettable experience.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Is Jesse Smith here? Am I taking his time?
I'll just share something with you. We talked a few minutes ago. I've been coming to Cornerstone for 15 years, and the hardest thing I've had this week is I have a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old at home. One of my favorite memories was leaving a Toby Mac concert, and I remember you were back there with your kids.
Oh.
And I just thought that was cool to see you enjoying the concert so much, because I knew Toby Mac maybe wasn't totally your thing, but I could tell your kids were really digging it and stuff. And I remember thinking, I can't wait to bring my kids here. And that's been one of the bittersweet things for me is, they're 4 and 2, and I would never dream of having them in this heat, but but that's a little regret for me. But I guess I'll try and bring out the writer in you. After we left Hardy's, I was driving in, and the thought came to me, this might be the last time I drive down that dirty road. And so I stuck on my favorite Josh Garrels tune and just kind of soaked it all up. So when you leave these grounds for the last time, if you could pick one song on your iPod, what would it be?
Oh my gosh. Well, my iPod won't work because there's no data service out here. So I did pick up a Holy Ghost Players cassette free from the gallery, which was the comedy troupe from Jesus People, and I'm going to definitely make my kids listen to that on the way home tomorrow. Our car still has a cassette player. That's how old it is. To me, Charlie Peacock, Whole Lot Different, A Whole Lot the Same, has always been kind of an anthem of Cornerstone. It's still that first acoustic trio show that he did in 1989 or 90 up in Waukegan. That show ranks as maybe still the best concert I've ever experienced in my life, and I've been to thousands of concerts. At the end of that show, he came out and he didn't know what else to do. He'd done everything that he, had, and the show just kept going and going. But the crowd kept singing, "We're a whole lot different, we're a whole lot the same, we're a whole lot different." And people sang it and sang it and sang it and sang it and sang it. And we left and had to go back to where we were staying. And I swear, when I came back in the morning, there were still some kids sitting outside that room singing that song in a coma. But that song, to me, was so perfect for Cornerstone because it really did. I mean, we got this going on right now, and we've got that going on, and we've got this going on, and we're so different. And that's what makes this community so interesting and to me so powerful, is that as different as we are, we have more in common than we have that separates us. And it's easy for me to think of that on one level just as it relates to Cornerstone, because I can say, oh, that's obvious. We have all this different music, and also, some people with more ink and piercings, but that's all surface stuff. To me, there's something more important about most, not all of the people that made this place their home. They've become part of this village, and that's that there's something in the way they process their faith, to their mind, to their heart, to their feet, that's a little bit different than how institutional, normal religion in America has done it. And that difference is something that gives us all something in common. But I really believe that there are a lot more Christians out there that would be just like us if they somehow got invited to the party. And one of the things about Cornerstone being out here in the middle of nowhere is it's kind of difficult to get to. But most Christians I actually get to know, if they had an access to this kind of community, it would transform their lives too. And I feel like that whole lot different, whole lot the same is an anthem, or it's a charge to us to bring more people into another level of commitment in their faith that actually changes how they live their life, who they live their life with, how they spend their money, where they live. It's not so much about, the music takes care of itself when it's growing out of a healthy soul. But when we don't have a healthy soul, then the fruit that comes out of it it's going to be disposable. So I guess I would pick that song. Hopefully I can dial that up now on my iPod, but also I'll be very disappointed. Thank you for that. I think we're eating somebody else's time. Jesse, is he here?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good, because I really want to hear this next thing. So I think nobody leave, because this is going to be a really, really cool story.
He really wanted to hear what you had to say.
Oh, he did? Cool. Well, I'm just
It's fine.
so. What I've read about Jesse's story leading up to this today is, again, there are a whole lot of people, artists, most of them you won't know this about them, that have told me over the years that there was a thread that connected them to the body of Christ through Cornerstone. People who told me that if it wasn't for the fact that they knew they were coming back here, they wouldn't have been doing music, they wouldn't have been walking any kind of faith journey, they would have given up on it. I've had people sit in our house or my parents' house or back in the True Tunes days saying that it was a bond that they didn't appreciate at the time, but later in life it's what pulled them home. And I'd say that that's the scariest thing for me. It's not that we don't have a concert, it's where are those threads going to be formed to get into the hearts of the next generation of, whether they're artists or not, to tether them to the body of Christ in a way that is beyond how many records they sell or how cool they are, if their style of music is popular or not. And the little bit I've seen from Jesse's story so far, that's just another example of that, you know. So to me, that's again about the charge that we have, is how do you all go home, and who are you inspired to be that tether? Because this won't happen if we don't make it. That's not a natural function of humanity. That's not part of our instincts. Our instincts are to be self-preservationists, you know, to protect ourselves, to build up ourselves, to gather stuff. It's not to go out of ourselves and to serve other people and connect with other people. So, and I guess any of you that are writers or are actually doing any blogging or whatever, that to me needs to be the story, is like, okay, now as we roll forward, don't occupy Cornerstone by coming back to an empty field next year and chanting, you know, that occupy Cornerstone by bringing this love and this community to wherever you are and just see what happens. And then pray for the people and have grace on the people who stumble and fall and who are wayward, because that's how Jesus was, and that's what I don't know, I could go on and on, but that to me is that's why I want to hear what Jesse has to say. So I want to stop talking, but I'll be around the rest of the day. If anybody wants to corner me, I'll talk your ear off. But thank you guys for coming and for being here this year, and I think hopefully we can all support the artists that came without getting paid, and Cornerstone and all that stuff. And I just think, let's see this chapter, let's just let the page turn and let's see what happens next. Also, I see Nate, and that reminds me, I really hope, if you guys can help spread the word, I really want to see, 40, 50, 60, or 100 kids get sponsored, because I think that sends a message too, and that changes literal lives for the rest of their future, for their eternity. Way more important than the music. So thank you guys very much. God bless. I'm going to stop talking now.
John and Joe Thompson, thanks so much for taking the time to join us here this afternoon at the Phantom Toll Booth Cornerstone 2012 Press Tent. You really know how to yank it out of it.
Thanks for stopping by the Phantom Toll Booth on YouTube. Before you go, make sure you visit our website and browse around our album, movie, concert, and book reviews, the latest music news, and our extensive archives dating back 16 years. Bookmark our site, check out our videos and news feed. Make room for that shadowy structure on your journey ahead. Tollbooth.org, slow down and have your change ready.